more can you tell us about the European response thus far?
Good morning, Belle. Well, EU countries want the facts after 2 weeks of inconsistent statements that started with the assertion that Jamal Khashoggi had left that consulate unharmed. Now EU leaders are struggling to believe in the Saudis' explanation that the journalist has actually died as a result of a fist fight inside that consulate. The strongest words coming from Germany. We've heard there from the German Chancellor Angela Merkel saying that under the current circumstances, the exports of weapons cannot continue. Of course, other EU countries have not gone that far, at least not yet. But they're all talking about the need for clarification as to what happened to Jamal Khashoggi. The UK Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt saying that it is very important to determine the truth, that the explanation provided by the Saudis is not exactly credible, and that nothing can justify this killing. France's Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian also spoke about the case, saying that France will demand an exhaustive and diligent investigation into this case, and that determining who's responsible and making sure that those responsible face justice for their actions is paramount for the stability of the relationship between Paris and Riyadh, a relationship that Le Drian described as based on frankness and transparency. For now, though, all EU countries are saying that they are going to wait for the findings of the Turkish investigation before determining what kind of punishment, if any, they will impose on Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, for its part, has arrested numerous officials connected with this case. What does that suggest to us?
Oh, indeed, Saudi Arabia on Friday announced that it had 18 suspects under detention and that it had fired a couple of senior officials. 5 top officials in Riyadh are now without a job. They are assumingly have some kind of connection with this case. Among these top officials is Ahmed al-Asiri, a top military official, the top intelligence official in Riyadh, a former spokesperson for the Arab coalition fighting in Yemen, a high-ranking official, someone with close ties with the Saudi royal family. Back in March, he came to Paris to prepare for Mohammed bin Salman's visit here in France, and I had a chance to sit down and speak to him about the war in Yemen, about Saudi Arabia's role in the region, but also about Riyadh's push for reform in the kingdom. This is what Ahmed al-Asiri had to say. Your 2030 vision includes reforms that involve also women, the relationship that Saudi Arabia has with Islam. What about social rights? What about, because driving is of course important, but what about other rights, including freedom of expression, freedom of speech? If somebody doesn't agree with the Saudi Arabia government today, can they say so? Will they be able to say so in 2030?
Well, I think, as you mentioned, there is a lot of things to do. We cannot do everything at the same time. And to modernize, to reform a society, you need to go gradually. A very quick changement will cause a very quick negative sides. We reform all those what you mentioned, and to see first where is the reference in the religion, then what is the reaction of the society to those kind of a changement. Those what you mentioned is a small things, but it shows the intention of His Majesty the King and his government to change gradually toward an objective.
Ahmed al-Asiri speaking about the importance of change, but that Saudi Arabia could not do everything at once. There's been a lot of talk about this push for reform in Saudi Arabia. Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, has attempted to show a more progressive vision for the country. However, though, if it's proven that Saudi Arabia and top officials in Riyadh were indeed behind the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, well, it will show that the vision for Saudi Arabia was nowhere near as progressive as the West was made to believe, Bill.